What is up, YouTube? We are back with another video. If you are new to the channel, hello. Welcome to the den of everything reptiles. If you've watched my previous video, then you know Kane. I do have, in fact, a couple new additions. Today's video was going to be a why leopard geckos don't make great pets for beginners and kids. However, I realized I do have some new additions who you guys did not meet. So, let's jump right into it. This is my beautiful boy Kai. He is pushing 2 feet. I'm not sure how much he weighs, but he is growing, let's say that. He is currently in blue, so his colors aren't popping like they normally do. I apologize for that. We're not going to be bugging him too much today. I just want to kind of give an introduction on him, tell you a little bit about him, and discuss a little bit about their care. Kai is, as I mentioned, he is a banana pastel ball python. A lot of people recommend ball pythons for beginners. I, however, am not most people. I do not recommend ball pythons for beginners at all. The reason I do not recommend ball pythons for beginners is because they have a little bit of an intense care requirement. For example, they are more common than they should be. They're more available than they should be, which sucks because most people get them as a beginner snake. They don't know anything about their care. They get them thinking it's going to be cool. They get a snake. However, ball pythons don't get too long. They get about 4 or 5 feet. I believe it's the, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's the females that get bigger than males, and this is for breeding purposes. Females push between 4.5 to 5 feet, whereas males usually stay between 4 to 4.5 feet long. However, they get girthy, and when I say they get girthy, I mean they get thick. They get very heavy. As an adult ball python, they would get, as a female, females tend to weigh a lot more than males do. Females, for breeding, people like to keep their females between 2,200 grams and I believe 3,000 grams. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kai is still young. I got him, I believe I got him in the beginning of February. I don't quite remember. I'd have to look back on my memories on Snapchat. I believe I got him the beginning of February, though. I will correct it in the comments if I am incorrect. But he is only about 8 months, between 8 and 10 months old at the most. So he is quite young still. He's got a lot of growing to do. I will, in fact, do another video after he sheds, just so you can see him in all his lavender and yellow glory. And as you can see, he's very chill. He's very mellow. He is not like most ball pythons, which tend to get very shy, and just like their name, they like to ball themselves up. They will often tuck their head in the very middle of them and then just kind of wrap their body around their head. And then they just kind of come out whenever they want to. Kai is the complete opposite. As you can see, I'm talking relatively loudly for you guys to hear, and he is just paying no attention at all. He has been like this ever since he was a baby. He has not balled up for me once since I had him. He's very adventurous. He likes exploring, crawling around. Most people will judge me for this, but Kai in fact eats live. And there are various different feeding methods. Most people recommend F/T or frozen thawed, which is a dead mouse that is frozen, and then you just thaw it out in hot water and then feed it to them with tongs. Or there are pre-killed, which is just like the name suggests. It was a live mouse, and then you euthanized it, meaning break its neck, or it sounds a little cruel, I'm sorry, but I mean it is necessary. Kai actually eats live mice, which means I offer him live mice. He usually eats 2 adult mice every week. If I do offer him more, I push it back Sometimes he eats 3 adults, sometimes less. It all depends, really. This week he ate either 3 or 4, so he's not going to eat for at least another week or 2. He ate, I want to say he ate last week, so I'm not going to feed him at all this week. And I may or may not feed him at all next week either. I don't know yet. But he is quite the chunk. Sadly, he's not big enough to move up to rats yet. There are rat pups, but those are just too small for him. So he is eating a lot for his age and a lot for his size, but I mean, he's not quite big enough to size up again. Some cons about the ball python is their care requirement is a little bit tricky. They do require a high humidity, unlike corn snakes, which require no humidity at all. They do require I keep Kai's humidity at about 66, between 66 and 70%. When he sheds, I bump it up to between 75 and 80%. And by doing this, all I do is I have a power mister, which is you can get at any hardware store, any reptile store really. It'll be a little bit more expensive at the reptile store. I have a 3,000 milliliter spray bottle, and all you do is you fill it with water, you pump it up a bunch of times, and then you just go to town with it. And this works a lot better than a regular spray bottle. I got this bottle for, I believe, $8. I want to say it was like $8. It wasn't very expensive at all, and it gets the job done a lot quicker than just a regular squirt bottle. And I do this twice a week, sometimes more if we get a dry period and the humidity just drops. Sometimes I miss a lot more often I should say. Not only the humidity, but ball pythons are not very social animals at all. They are, in the wild, they are burrowers. They are often in pre-burrowed. So, for example, like a molehill, abandoned anthills, you would often see, more than likely, a ball python is in that burrow. They like it dark. They like it solitary, pretty much. They are not very social animals at all, and this can in fact be a con. Most people, when they get an animal, they want to be able to see it, they want to be able to interact with it. Ball pythons can in fact be interacted with. I interact with Kai quite often, but inside the cage, unless it is feeding time, that's how I know he's ready to eat, is he's just out and about slithering all over the cage. Unless it's feeding time, Kai is never out. He is always in his hide. And then when he comes out, I know he's ready to eat. I know he wants food. So I'll just offer him a mouse or 2 mice, depending on how big it is. And then it's in his hide he goes. Some cons to feeding live are, most people tend to, when they feed live, they feed it in the cage. And they often don't take the mouse or rat out. If the snake doesn't eat it, they often leave it in for a little bit, and this can be very dangerous to not only, mostly it can be dangerous to the snake, because rodents can, if the snake happens to miss striking. So for example, if I give Kai a mouse, and say the mouse is here and Kai is where he's at, Kai would miss my hand, which is hypothetically the mouse. He would miss the mouse. The mouse can actually turn around and bite him. It can scratch. For a baby, if you give an item that is too big, they often won't eat it because it intimidates them. They often won't touch it, won't look at it, nothing. So people often leave it in there, and babies are often started on hoppers. And if you start them on frozen thawed, this is the best way because it gets them used to frozen thawed. You know they'll take it. But in some cases, snakes that are raised on frozen thawed would soon get tired of it and not want it anymore. And a way to do this is, if your snake is raised on frozen thawed and then they just stop eating altogether, they don't want it, they don't look at it, nothing, they're just showing no interest at all, try offering a live or a pre-killed, or even getting a frozen thawed and rubbing it on a live mouse, because this would give the pheromones from a live mouse. It would give the scent of a live mouse, and it could even warm the mouse up a little more. So try this, and if this doesn't work, then just offer a live mouse. More often than none, for example, a female that had just laid eggs and is eating frozen thawed rats, for example, because she's just that big. If she, for example, stops taking the live rat, or the frozen thawed rat, I'm sorry. If she just stops taking the rat and then you try a live rat and she still doesn't want it, try bumping it down to a mouse. Often they get tired of whatever they're eating and they just won't want it anymore. So try offering different varieties. Some people even feed hamsters, gerbils, ASF mice, which is an African soft-furred mouse. However, with these choices, they have a different scent, I guess. And then once you start them on these different varieties, the snake would then not want anything else. They would want only this set food preference. They wouldn't want anything else. They wouldn't even look in its general direction. And another con with ball pythons, some can be very picky. Some that are raised on frozen thawed and are only eating a certain color. Like, for example, if you're buying frozen thawed and everything they've been eating is white, sometimes if you bump them up, or even if you switch from frozen thawed to live or live to frozen thawed, they would only want a certain color. Some ball pythons can be very, very picky like that. I've seen it in many, many cases, none with myself, but my cousin also raises ball pythons and boa constrictors. And his ball python, it is actually a normal, or a wild type, I should say. Snickers actually was eating frozen thawed, I want to say rats, frozen thawed small rats, and then he bumped her up. And then because he was only feeding a specific color, he had just bought one pack and it just happened to have a black rat in it. He offered it and she didn't want anything to do with it. It wanted nothing to do with it. So he opened the other one and gave her the white one, and she immediately took it. So you got to kind of be eerie on that. Some are very picky. It's nothing that you're doing wrong. I mean, it could be, but ball pythons often tend to go off feed, usually pregnant females, or in the colder months, if you live in a cold area, they would often brumate, which is hibernation but for reptiles. Their metabolism slows down, they stop eating as much. Ooh, I didn't mean to do that, I'm sorry. But they often go into brumation and they go off feed, and some can go off feed for months on end, some can go off feed for even a year or two. It is possible. It's not uncommon for ball pythons to go off feed or to stop eating. However, it's can be a bit of an issue if you notice that, for example, if you get a ball python and they're just not eating for you, I wouldn't make a vet visit or go to a vet unless you notice that your snake is losing weight. Yeah, he's just chilling. You see the beautiful boy. Yeah, he's gorgeous. I love him. Some pros about ball pythons is they don't get as big as other snakes, such as corn snakes. Although they get heavier and girthier, they won't get as long as a corn snake would. Although corn snakes are more social, they're out and about more. What people tend to underestimate about corn snakes is they would get long. They can get between 5, 5.5, even 6 feet long. They get very big. And also, corn snakes are a bit of escape artists. Ball python, I mean, all snakes can be escape artists. Kai has personally never escaped for me, like ever. I've fed him and left the lid off for a few minutes. He would slither around. He would sniff the top of the cage and then go back down. He has never escaped or crawled out of the cage unless my hand was there. He's a good boy. Corn snakes don't care if your hand is there or not. If they want out, they're getting out. I do keep weights on Kai's cage just because in case he does get ballsy and want to escape, he's not able to push the lid up because I have those weights there. So you can look into that, or even cages with the little slots, you can put a lock on it. But yeah, they don't get as big as other snakes do, and they're also less likely to bite, unlike other snakes. For example, a baby corn snake would be a lot more likely to bite and rattle its tail, whereas a ball python, although they can be feisty, it all depends on the snake really. They're not very likely to bite you unless you provoke them and piss them off. Other snakes are just mean. Like, they just don't like you. They can just look at you and not like you. Kai has never struck at me. He has never bitten me. He has showed no interest in wanting to harm me. I have handled the mice that I fed him, not thinking about it, and put my hand near him. He has never once struck. He has never bitten me, anything like that. So that's a pro for, but I guess, I mean, it does depend on the snake. There are some ball pythons that are just feisty little fuckers, and they just don't like you. And then there's some like Kai that are just absolute sweethearts, and they just love your very existence. Baby ball pythons are, if they're a normal or a wild type, they are very, very cheap. I mean, their care isn't so cheap, but the snake itself you can get from your expo for like 20 bucks, 25 bucks, sometimes more depending on the morph. More colorful morphs obviously are going to be more expensive than a normal type. Normals, it'll often say normal ball python, or it'll just say normal. If it doesn't say anything like that, you can often tell a normal by its pattern. It would look a lot like Kai's pattern, only the color is different. These lavender places would be jet black, and then these little spots here that you can see, the lighter colors, those would be brown. So that's the only real difference. I mean, obviously other morphs have different patterns, other morphs have different colors, which can be a pro and a con. So it's a con because there is a morph of ball python called spider. I do not recommend spider ball pythons. I do not recommend any ball python that has a spider gene in it, simply because the spider morph it's just a bad morph altogether, really. It's not only is it colorful, which is a pro, but it's a con because the spider gene often has a wobble, and what I mean by wobble is the snake's head would often sway back and forth. If it does go in an upright position, it wouldn't straighten its head back out. It would just fall back and then eventually roll over, or it would just stay on its back. Like, it's a neurological disorder, and there we go. It is a neurological disorder in the snake's brain, which is also a motor disorder. So it affects movement, it affects the way the snake strikes. They often misstrike and miss food. Trying to get the lighting right. I hate recording on my iPhone. I apologize so much. I am so sorry. You do get some good face shots of Kai though, and all of his blue glory. What was that? Spider morph. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's a motor disorder as well as a neurological disorder. So it affects movement. It affects the way the snake strikes. They often misstrike and miss food, which in turn causes injuries to the snake. If they hit the mouse and then they go to coil and they just don't coil right, the mouse or rat would often bite the snake and injure it. It can scratch. It's just so many things that go wrong with the spider morph, which is why I don't recommend them for beginners. I don't even recommend them for the most advanced keepers. Just because spider morphs are so widely available it kind of makes me sick to my stomach that they are so available and that people still buy them, knowing these disorders, knowing this disorder, and knowing the things that go wrong with this gene. People still buy them, people still sell them, and it's just really, really sad, because not only is it putting, it's a bad idea, and it puts the snake in so much danger. People tend to overlook there's so many things that are wrong with the spider morph, and they get it anyway, and then the snake dies. So a con for ball pythons is not many people get their substrate right. I am in a ball python group on Facebook, and you would not know how many times I've seen Craigslist screenshots of posts that are on Craigslist, and there is a adult ball python in a 20-gallon long tank with another ball python, both adults, and they are kept on aspen bedding, which is kind of like those little chip thingies that you would like keep a hamster on, or a guinea pig. It's the same thing, those little chip thingies. They're kept in aspen bedding with one water bowl, one hide, and it would have a little heat bulb on it. Both snakes are emaciated, both snakes have stuck shed, and in turn this is neglect, it is animal cruelty, and it is a felony where I am. Ball pythons do not live in aspen chips or aspen bedding whatsoever. It holds no humidity at all. And not only does it hold no humidity, but it's very dusty. So if you ever notice if you have, for example, a corn snakes thrive in aspen bedding. If you have a corn snake, if you notice how when you put the aspen bedding in the tank and then all the little debris just floats up, all the dust like sticks to the sides of the tank, is the same thing as if you were to do it for a ball python. And in turn, this dust actually gets stuck in their heat pits, which are the little holes on the side of the face. It gets stuck in their nostrils. It can cause breathing infections, RIs. Not only that, but it holds no humidity whatsoever, which in turn makes bad sheds. For example, if a ball python is kept on aspen bedding and then they go into blue like Kai is, because aspen holds no humidity at all, the snake wouldn't be able to get the shed off in one piece. It would be a very broken shed. It would have some spots on the body where the shed just didn't come off. It can get stuck around the tip of the tail, and then, it would cause stuck shed, which you would often hear. It can get stuck on their eyes, leaving what's called eye caps. It's basically the same thing. They shed the little layer over their eyes, which is why their eyes are in blue, because their eyes are also in shed. My phone won't focus. So yeah, I recommend, and I made this mix myself. I have an Eco Earth, sphagnum moss, and topsoil mix. If you do have topsoil that you want to put into your substrate, you can get, it's called Miracle Grow something. I'm sure there's different other brands too that are more inexpensive to you, but regardless of what brand you get, you're going to want to get topsoil that doesn't have the little white balls, the little perlite in it, because some brands, the little perlite is often made of chemicals which can harm the snake's scales. It can grow bacteria, it can grow mold. You don't want that. And then you just make your mix, add a little bit of water to keep humidity, and then you just put it into your enclosure and then call it a day. I have branches that I found outside that I cleaned and disinfected, and I also have vines and fake plants. Another con about ball pythons, but it's also a pro, is because you never see them, it's a pro to the snake, I should say. Because you never see them, that means your snake is healthy. If your snake is just out and about all the time, then that often means that your snake could be sick and you might want to make a vet appointment. I've been told numerous different times, a hiding snake is a healthy snake. So if your ball python is hiding all the time, then that means they are healthy, they are content, they feel secure in their enclosure, and this is a good thing. You don't want a ball python that's just going to be out and about, because that means something is wrong. In the wild, ball pythons are burrowers. They like being where they're not going to be seen. They're very lazy snakes. They are ambush predators, which means they will sit and wait until a food item walks by, and then they will just strike it. They're very lazy. They don't go out and hunt and just catch their food like a normal animal would. They sit and wait until something passes by, and then they strike it. And that's about it. Let's see. But yeah, this is Kai. I have I have 3 other new additions. Yes, because you just met Kai. So I have 3 other new additions. In my future videos, I will be introducing them, telling you why they do make good why they do make good pets, why they don't make good pets, all their care requirements, diets, things like that. You guys would, if you guys would like to meet them, let me know down in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. My name is Gabe. This is my favorite boy, Kai. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all guys soon. Bye.